Do you think Shakespeare has an influence on today's society?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
I think a lot of like stories that we tell and like movies that are made and things like that are kind of adaptations of his stories.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think like it has a lot of influence, surprisingly, like in the movie industry.
Shakespeare created so many words that are part of the modern language that it's impossible to not credit him with that. Like, there's whole books of words that Shakespeare just invented. Eyeball.
I'm a big Shakespeare fan, and I think that because I recognize a lot of these directly from his plays, and they're so commonly used, he's more relevant than we realize.
They would have like crazy Kickstarters trying to fund Killer Play by Bill Shakespeare. Free sign it to those that pledge $50 here.
A sonnet for my dark lady. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely, more temperate.
Will! Temporary insults are pretty lame. Even lame is kind of lame. You want to talk about some insults? Let's talk about Shakespeare's insults. I think that you're a herd of boils and plagues.
What would you do if I told you that every single one of the phrases on the survey was from Shakespeare?
I knew it.
I knew
it was a trick question.
Well, that is not what I thought, so I'm shocked.
I would not be surprised.
I would not be surprised.
I would not be surprised. I only thought a couple of them might not be.
You monstrous malefactor.
I mean, couldn't we do selected scenes from The Terminator?
You're just a huge bombard of sack.
Or how about a Steven Seagal soliloquy?
You barren, spoiled man.
You know, Mr. Matthews, you are absolutely right. Shakespeare is dry, tedious, and there's no way for a person your age to be affected by it. I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain term to walk the night, and for the day confined to fast in fires, till the foul crimes done in my days of nature are burned and purged away. But that I am forbid to tell the secrets of my prison house, I could a tale unfold, whose lightest word would harrow up thy soul, freeze thy young blood. But this eternal blazon must not be to ears of flesh and blood. List, list, oh list, if thou didst ever thy dear father love.
Oh, God.
Revenge is foul and most unnatural murder.
Murder?
Of course, I'm no Steven Seagal.
You valiant flea, you foul and ugly witch.
In faith I do not love thee with mine eyes, for there in thee 1,000 errors note. But 'tis my heart that loves what they despise, who in despite abuse please the dope. I know Shakespeare's a dead white guy, but he knows his shit, so we can overlook that.
Well, clearly Shakespeare's used a lot.
Mad-headed puke stalking.
Et tu, brute, that's Shakespeare.
Chicken, Aladdin. Yeah, that's King Crab. I hate when they do that. Caesar salad. Et tu, Bridgette. Nope. Aha! To make a prince.
You fat and greasy citizen.
I say friends, let me hold your ear. And Romans, let me hold your ear. I say countrymen, let me hold your ear. Now, I'm Marcus Antony, but they call me Mark. I didn't come to bite, you see, I came to bark about the holes that the brothers put in Julius C. As far as I'm concerned, it is true with me.
You stuffed cloak bag of guts.
So many of them are in common usage, it's hard to say where I've heard them. Many of them come up in common conversations, many are used in other works of literature or drama, plays, etc. So it's hard to say where I've heard.
Normal life
Conversations.
Yeah, and like
TV shows.
Yeah, and especially sitcoms, they use that shiz all day long.
I think movies are really big, but then like Pop and Circumstance, that's just like, you hear about in graduation.
In plays and in school and reading.
A lot of them do come up in conversation. Mostly, though, I find them fairly literary. They come up a lot in books I read, though normal books, even children's books I read, and a lot in film.
They were placed in my brain computer by experiences, readings, conversation, going to plays, and I've long ago forgotten how they got there. I don't know if I ever remembered in the first place.
You carcass fit for hounds. Dude, carcass fit for hounds? That's a burn.
I think that actually seeing a well-done performance is probably the best way to at least initially introduce people to Shakespeare.
One should read a Shakespeare and then go see a play performed by really good professionals, and also see it performed by amateurs trying their best and doing a great job too.
Oh, shut up, you presumptuous vassal.
A lot of them, you kind of just know that everyone knows them.
Yeah.
Like, Spotless Reputation, like, that one, I mean, like, that one wouldn't seem like a Shakespeare one. Like, I thought that was just a normal phrase.
I recognized all of them. They're mostly in common tongue.
Come What May, I thought for sure was from Moulin Rouge, and I'm really upset.
She's the man.
No, are you kidding, you guys? The whole entire thing is based off of Shakespeare.
Yeah, I know, but that's where I heard the quote first.
Yeah. Some are born great, some achieve greatness.
You thought he just made that
When Duke says it at the soccer game.
It's intense. Knock knock, who's there?
Yeah, I totally did not.
Did Shakespeare make up knock knock?
You saucy lackey.
Like, heart on your sleeve.
I think that people should stop using wear my heart upon my sleeve because, like, we're over it.
Did Shakespeare really say what the Dickens?
I totally thought the Dickens was from something else.
Charles Dickens didn't say that. Or like send packing.
What Dickens?
I thought Dead as a Doornail, recalling that that's from the opening paragraph of Dickens' Christmas Carol, but in retrospect I'm not surprised that he drafted it from Shakespeare.
Dead as a doornail is a really funny phrase. Actually, a lot of these are particularly funny, which is one of the best things about Shakespeare. I don't just like his comedies, but I mostly like the comedy in his serious works.
You fancy mongerer.
In a pickle. I thought that was baseball for sure.
Oh, that game that's called Pickle.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's where it's from. Duh. Tale about a boy who fell in a pickle.
Knock Knock, Who's There? I don't know where that's from. And In a Pickle.
In a pickle. It's a big one.
Yeah, well, you're a mildewed ear.
Play Fast and Loose. I also thought that was baseball. It was Greek to me. Is he being racist?
No, I think that means like he didn't know the language.
I thought Sound and Fury was a book.
It sounds like a good title. It's a good title.
I think it's also a song.
It probably is used a lot.
Everybody knows about Romeo and Juliet, and that's like defines girls' love.
If I had to be a Capulet or a Montague, I would definitely choose to be a Montague.
You know, here's the proof, Mr. Feeney, that two kids, with everything going against them, can take the power of love and make it work.
Well, boy,
What?
you haven't actually finished the play, have you?
Well, they're in love. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, you see, this ain't the first time that despising families had their young'uns to take to one another.
It ain't?
No. Well, I guess about the worst that ever happened was in a tale that was wrote a long time ago by a fellow named William Shakespeare that lived over in the old country.
Yea, noise, then I'll be brief. O happy dagger, this is thy sheath. There rust, and let me die. Happy, dagger, see? Happy.
Their daddies could have saved themselves the expense of a double funeral if they would have just let them had a cheap wedding.
First of all, Romeo and Juliet are both equally dumb. But, you know, that's not true. Juliet's definitely dumber. And I just don't want to be associated with that, you know, by like my family name. And as cool as Tybalt is, and totally BA, I would definitely rather hang out with Mercutio. And like, I know Mercutio's not technically a Montague, but he hangs out with Romeo and the other Montagues, and I just definitely rather chill with Mercutio than Tybalt.
You're a timorous wrench.
Which one is to be or not to be? Because I know it's Shakespeare. Like, which one's in it?
Is that Hamlet?
Hamlet?
No.
Oh, but I've got new ideas. Perhaps it's time I wrote about fathers and sons in memory of my boy, my precious Hamlet.
Hamlet.
That's him.
Hamnet.
What's wrong with that?
Well, people frequently quote to be or not to be. Doesn't have much common usage, but it's commonly quoted.
To be or not to be. Oh, that's quite good.
You should write that down.
It's just that everywhere I go, it's the same old thing. All anyone wants me to say is to be or not to be.
That is the question, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and
Yes,
arrows
it's
of
either that or, oh, that there's too solid flesh and...
To be or not to be. That is the,
Question.
Not now.
No, that's your line.
I know. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune.
I ask to be or not to be. A rogue or peasant slave is what you see. A boy who loves his mother's knee. And so I ask,
Be or not to be? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing in them.
Really like If You Prick Us, Do Not Bleed from Shylock's speech. It seems to come up quite a bit in current conversations about civil rights and our shared humanity. So that has a lot of value because we can all reference that shared idea and get to the point quickly.
Let's kill all the lawyers for sure. Yeah, Macbeth. Oh, Henry knew what he was talking about there.
But you're a foul, misshapen stigmatic with an odoriferous stench.
I think that it's great that we read it in class, but I do think that it requires a really good teacher, someone who is willing to actually dive into the footnotes and talk about what Shakespeare meant rather than focus on our difficulties parsing through the poetic language.
Soliloquy is where you kind of look way off and kind of talk to yourself. They used to do that a whole lot back then. You do it today and somebody will take you away.
Neither a borrower nor a lender need. Do not forget, stay out of debt. Think twice and take the good advice from me. Guard that old sovereignty.
What do you think is the best way for people to become aware of Shakespeare?
To take classes.
Shakespeare's comedies in film and in classes are a really good way to get people started. The tragedies and histories usually come later.
I mean, he created a lot of words. That was pretty cool. I mean, but I don't use Shakespeare in my daily life or anything.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Have you ever told a knock-knock joke?
In my life.
Knock-knock, who's there?
Oh my God.
Was originally Shakespeare. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
At what age do you think people should become aware?
About 16, 15, in the young teens.
Do you think that young people should learn about Shakespeare?
If they got the time, they sure should. They'd be missing out.
Well, I think the parents have to make that decision. That's a major decision.
The language is a little inaccessible to younger people on the whole. Many of the phrases have been adapted. At this point, I'm not even sure we'd call them Shakespearean, although sure, Cry Havoc and, Let's Let the Dogs of War, totally Shakespearean. But on the other hand, the Dickens, nobody thinks of that as Shakespearean.
At what age do you think people should go see a performance?
Wow. If it's in the original, with the original script, I think you have to at least be a teenager or above.
Since most of these are common phrases that even came up in children's books, I'd say that people become aware of Shakespeare without knowing it as very young children. So, though it would be difficult to actually read anything of his until later, that the more playful comedies can have a Shrek effect. Like, people can enjoy Midsummer Night's Dream as kids with Bottom and everything, in like a movie or even on stage with great actors, without having to worry about the jokes being too raunchy, because they won't get them yet.
The All That Glitters Is Not Gold, I thought that was from a song from Shrek.
All that glitters not gold,
and only shooting stars break the moon.
You foul, undigested lump.
Rush out your Shakespeare, start quoting him now. brush up your Shakespeare, and the women you will wow.
Just declaim a few lines from a fella.
Yes, sir.
And they'll think you're one heck of a fella.
Hey, if your blonde won't respond when you flatter, tell her what Tony told Cleopatra.
And if still to be shocked, she pretends well. Just remind her that all's well that ends well.
Hey!
I didn't realize he had such an influence on like everyday language.
I
Like
mean,
these are things that people use every day and don't even think about it.
MIT University used a whole bunch of data gathered from Wikipedia to rank famous figures through history in terms of their global reach and in terms of searches.
Yeah, I'm gonna look them up on Wikipedia for sure.
Now that's how you insult people, with Shakespeare.
Leonard Bernstein wrote a musical based on Romeo and Juliet and set it in New York. What was it originally called? It became West Side Story, but it was originally called
East Side Story. Tonight, it all began tonight. I saw you and the world went away.
Kiss Me Kate, yes, by Cole Porter, was based on
The Taming of the Shrew.
The Taming of the Shrew, exactly.
Marry me, marry me, marry me, marry me, marry me, marry me, marry me.
There's a stage musical playing in London at the moment that is based on Hamlet. The Lion King is based on Hamlet. Did you not know?
At what point does Hamlet say Hakuna Matata?
Brother, help me!
I'd have to say the coolest thing about Shakespeare is being able to do classic plays in modern format. Some people think that that's not being true to the theme or true to the source material or true to the whatever, but I think it's really cool when you see somebody go ahead and replace all the swords with guns and say, hey look, it's modern day, and it still works. That's pretty cool.
I think it would help you understand like modern language better.
I think it's incredible that his works persist today, and I think it's a shame that all too often youngsters today don't have the opportunity, the exposure, other than the typical ones that children read in school, Julius Caesar, Macbeth, I guess, sometimes Hamlet.
And that is what makes Shakespeare great.